I never would have guessed that this franchise was so popular. I heard about them 5, maybe 6 years ago, and ever since then, I've been impressed. Mad Max Fury Road, the 2015 sequel that came out 30 years later after Beyond Thunderdome, which was the third installment in 1985. The plot: two people on the run for different reasons. Max is on the run for some reason. We never actually are given a reason why he's on the run, but Furiosa is trying to help some brides of a maniacal warlord to escape to a place where they can thrive and live and be at peace. But Immortan Joe, the insane warlord guy, is chasing after them with Max as part of the blood bags who help fuel his henchmen. And yeah, it's just a prolonged chase, really. It's pretty straightforward, so let us see what it has to offer. Visually, this film is captivating throughout. Story-wise, it's alright. With $150 million budget behind it, there was no doubt that director George Miller would make an impressive looking film. However, the sets, lighting, and overall atmosphere are what really drive the film. In fact, since it is such a gorgeous looking movie, people tend to forgive its shortcomings. I mean, sure, the Mad Max franchise hasn't always been a contender for best plots. You want to see a Mad Max movie, you want to see stuff blow up. It looks nice, therefore it works. However, that's really fair to other films that fall under the same category and then are criticized for having a weak story. In Mad Max 4's defense, I'd say the story here is a bit more driven than those other visually appealing but less complex stories. The characters are what make this adequate plot rather exceptional. You would think this movie called Mad Max would have Max, played by Tom Hardy this time, not Mel Gibson, which it could have easily had been, be the main character. However, I would argue that Furiosa's, played by Charlize Theron, his story is much more of the driving point. She wants to save the brides. She wants to find her homeland. It's all very much so a tale of loving and eventual despair. The rest of the characters are somewhat interchangeable, with the exception of a few, like Immortan Joe, played by Hugh Keys Byron, who also played Toe Cutter in the original Mad Max. But amongst the cast of characters, I felt that there were some highlights, but not too many. I've briefly mentioned Max, but I want to go a bit more in depth, mainly with the actor, Tom Hardy, who hated his performance in this movie. He even went to Mel Gibson to apologize. I thought it was fine. He didn't suck any of the mystique out of the character. If he did, then I'd be expecting Mel to want an apology. Hugh Keys Byron is very menacing as Immortan Joe. His gruff, immense voice makes him an intense threat. You also have his presence. He commands every scene he is in with a larger-than-life demand for whatever he so desires. Nux, played by Nicholas Hoult, is one of Immortan Joe's men. I bring him up because of his arc. He was devoted to Joe and would do anything to appease him. With the sudden realization that he is nothing to Immortan Joe, makes him begin to question his entire life. He's a rather complex character in a movie that's gimmick is to make you want to go ooh and ah at the spectacle. The brides are somewhat interchangeable. Like I mentioned earlier, the characters were interchangeable. It's mostly the brides. There are about 5 or 6 of them. I almost couldn't remember their names for the life of me. That is not to say they aren't important nor portrayed by bad actresses. There's one, the splendid Angharad, can't even say that word, who is pregnant with Immortan Joe's child. She represents new life in a dying world, a beacon of hope. She means everything to Joe. I mean, the baby means everything to Joe. There's also Capable. She is, as her name suggests. In fact, they all are. The fragile one to Toast the knowing. Why she's called Toast, I don't know, but she is knowledgeable. There is an abundance of people in this movie, as well as people who worked on this movie, and with that $150 million budget, you can tell that they hired the best for the effects. The gore, the effects. There are only a tiny handful of bloody scenes. Still, the action is what makes up for it. Most of the car stunts and such are done practically. Just like the good old days. The costume designs are impressive too. You've got Furiosa, who has a mechanical arm. Immortan Joe has a huge mask on his face that covers his mouth. And one of his henchmen even has bullets for teeth. Come on now. That's awesome. Oh, and I can't forget to mention the guitarist on the vehicle, who wastes their precious gas. Which, it's not really precious anymore, never mind. So he can play the instrument with flame shooting out of it. It's ludicrous, but fits this loony tale. The motion picture soundtrack, Tim Holkenborg, what the frig? Aka Junkie XL, composes some greatly energetic themes in this movie. I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on that name. I am Borg. Survive and Spiky Cars are two of my favorite tunes in this soundtrack. While the action themes play out, there's a sense of mournfulness to certain characters that don't make it till the end. It's quite refreshing, especially because in films like The Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome, whenever someone important dies, it was rather quick and not too impactful. This brought it back to the somewhat romantic and heartfelt scoring of the first film, and I loved it. Every time those certain pieces of music came on, I felt the emotions. I loved Mad Max Fury Road. While it doesn't have the strongest story, it is a very character-driven piece, and the action is plentiful. So what if the plot is a bit flimsy? I still cared about the characters about as much as any of the visuals in the film. I believe those two reasons are why it resonated with audience members so well. We usually get these visually appealing yet shallow movies. Sometimes it's good to trek among the wasteland, especially if you've lost sight of what makes a great action flick like this one. Overall, I give Mad Max Fury Road a 3.5 out of 5. Thank you all for watching, and make sure to like, comment, and share on this video, as well as hit that notification bell to be updated every time I make a new video, as well as like my Facebook fan page and support me on Patreon. The links to those two pages are in the description below, and to leave comments and subscribe.